got Stuart Williams here from Rolux. It's such an interesting story. And we were chatting off-site or before this all started officially, Stu, and I'm just inspired as I sit here. And I want to just give a bit of context. So Rolux, and I'll let you go into the story. It's a brand that's over 70 years, 60 years old now. And recently, we started to pick up on your brand. And you've been a client of Lasher Tools for quite some time.
Yes.
But recently we saw online you guys having the most organic conversations, talking about your achievements, but also about the mistakes and the challenges that you see. The whole family and how organic you guys are, how inspirational you are. And here is this big brand, Lasher Tools, and all of us got inspired by Rolux, and also so many other consumers and professionals and industry people. So this morning we've got Stu Williams here. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Stu.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for
Thanks
this
for
honor.
the kind introduction too.
It's an absolute pleasure. But Stu, just to give people context on this, just take us through the Rolux story a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Because we all know, if you go back, Rolux has been part and parcel of our lives for quite some time. But take us through the story, when this all started, and when you guys took over as a family,
Sure.
and where we are today.
Okay, so I mean, as you said, the brand is over 60 years old. It's the company's produced many millions of lawnmowers during its time, plus a bunch of other products. But during that time, it's also seen its fair share of downs. The ups are always nice to talk about, but the downs are actually more interesting to talk about.
Yeah, that's where we learn.
Yeah, it's where you learn. And during that time, it was bought over a couple of times from the iconic advert days. You know, there was that the David Livingston advert, you know, the Rolux Magnum jingle. Those were the good days. And then it went through a process of a couple of liquidations.
Okay.
The problem with the in that time was, from what we can tell, was poor management plus a combination of other competitors in the market. You know, it's easy to blame management, but we don't actually know.
Okay.
We do know that it went through 2 liquidations, at which point it was bought by a family called the Loxton family. And the Loxton family owned a shop in Randburg called Loxton's, as well as another brand
Very
called
famous.
Professional. Yes. And they had run that very successfully for many years. In 2018, Gordon Loxton, who is the guy who is now running let me step back a little bit. They bought Professional, and the Loxton family bought Rolux out of liquidation in 2015. Ran it until 2018, at which point Gordon Loxton unfortunately had what we understand to be a heart attack, and he died. And the brand and business took a nosedive, and my dad has been and brother have been in the Stratham Park area for a long time doing business, and they'd heard that the business was for sale. So my dad and brother walked in. We had long chats with Mrs. Loxton, who understandably was grieving, and we eventually bought the company in early 2019. And we was super close to liquidation again. This is the type of business, just like yours, that requires feeding it working capital cash.
Yeah.
And it with Gordon Loxton not there, it just wasn't happening. It just couldn't happen. So we bought it, and then the whole family got involved. I was actually overseas at the time. I flew back with my wife, and we got stuck in. It was a good time to buy the company because it was winter and we were able to build up stock for the season, so it wasn't like we missed a season. Being a seasonal business, it is what it is. We didn't really know what we had bought. We're entrepreneurs at heart. You know, my dad's a pig farmer from back in the day.
Didn't know that, Steve.
My older brother Bruce ran a cleaning company with his mates very successfully, but I was the corporate one. I came out of the private equity world.
Okay.
And my private equity experience had been dealing with companies that weren't doing so well and trying to fix them into things that were doing well. And this was all of us jumping in with our various skill sets to try and fix it. And we all jumped in. But as with everything in life, curveballs come your way. We're now halfway through our first season, and all of a sudden, boom, South Africa shuts down. March 2020, COVID happens. Our business shut for 2 months. There was nothing we could do. And then, you know, when it opened up, I've never seen demand like that before. But then you're dealing with the challenges of lack of steel in the country. I'm sure that you guys have understood that.
Logistics,
supply chain was a nightmare. the rand had shot up to 19 rand to the dollar, and then subsequently dropped back. It was just all these things that we're dealing with, and then load shedding happening at the same time. Then in 2021 there was the Delta variant came out, the COVID variant Delta, of which I got really sick and I was in hospital with, and my whole factory was down. And at the same time we move factories, so I'm just, it's tumultuous. It's not like everybody looks at it and sees these brands and goes, oh, life's just easy. It ain't easy. So we fast forward to now. In that process, we won a customer in Australia, a big distributor, and we realized that we have an international opportunity, and that's where we got the confidence to start saying, well, you know what, if we can do it there, who says we can't do it elsewhere in the world? And so even with all of these things that have happened, we're now seeing those green shoots really starting to pop out.
Yes. So even, if you look at that, what you just said about your family and the different experience that you guys have, I mean, it's quite a pool of experience to come together for one mission.
Yes.
But still, it had challenges because there was inexperience about certain things, there was decisions that was probably made that afterwards you go, oh shit, why? and it's so true when they say the business takes 5 years to establish. I mean, is that not more truer than what we are speaking about here right now?
Yeah, it's 100% true.
You can be whoever you want to be. All the different experience, all the different motivations, it's still going to get its challenges in the first 5 years.
Correct.
And then there's this different set of challenges as growth gets bigger and bigger the years after that.
That's right.
But here you are now today, and I know you've skipped quite a bit there, but the Australian market, how did that start? Where did that all come from? So I'm a local brand today. Or I've got a product and I want to open up markets. How did that start for you?
So with the business of old that Gordon Loxton was running sold a brand. It was our product, a cylinder mower, a real mower, into the Australian market to a company called TPE. Okay, TPE went bankrupt in Australia.
Okay,
and one of the guys who used to work for TPE started working for a company called Cox.
Okay.
And the CEO of Cox, Peter Jamison, gave us a phone call saying, listen, we heard that you guys made these mowers. Is this something you'd be keen to do? And we didn't even realize that that this opportunity really existed. We were only about a year into the running of this business. We were dealing with a million things on our list. We still are. And then all of a sudden something pops up in Australia. And so he contacted us and we thought, well, if our mowers are good enough, let's just try this out. Flew one over to him.
Okay.
We couldn't fly over to meet the guy. So anyway, he then bought a couple of containers worth, and that's how things started rolling. But the truth is, the business was never going to be built on the back of our brand or his brand. It was built on the back of social media. Social media for our industry has been phenomenal because people like to show off their lawn. There's something out there called lawn porn. I mean, it's a thing.
I know all about it. My research took me to all. I'm afraid what my algorithm is going to do from here on.
I'm worried for you. So this lawn porn thing is real, and people show off their lawns. I mean, they've got people taking photos of their lawns. There's this thing about putting a beer onto your lawn and showing your stripes, and this is what my hard work has resulted in. People talking about their heights of cut and talking about the type of their lawn. Before we got into this business, I didn't know this was a thing. Now I am fully in it. So it was really, social media has been great for it because it's the type of thing that people, we spoke about before the show, but it creates value for your home when something looks good. When you've got a wheelbarrow that doesn't make a noise outside a customer's room at a hotel, or a lawnmower that's a bit quieter, but it also creates perfectly cut lawn. It creates almost like that Wimbledon effect. And that's what has really propelled us around the world.
People, when it comes to gardening, which I think both of our brands are very, very passionate about, it's such a fine thing that it's so difficult sometimes to get people excited about the tools that make the garden, because the garden itself, a lot of people feel passionate about, but the tools are so important. The tools that you use to get there. And when it comes to, I'm so excited about this conversation because it's so interesting that when it comes to lawn, there's a group called Lawn Nuts. You referred to it on the show with Bruce Whitfield not too long
that's
ago.
Right.
But we, as Lasher, have seen that so many times. We follow those pages. We engage with it. It's incredible how people take pride. And I'll tell you what, Stu, what an awesome thing. And this is something I just can't get consumers to. We are so attached to our cell phones and electronics, and it's so awesome on a Saturday or Sunday morning when you do have a gap for 20 minutes to take your kids into the garden.
Yeah.
Explain the flowers that are there, the presence that brings to your home as well.
Agreed.
Even when you go into informal settlements, there's so much pride that people take in their yards and what they do, because it almost like it soothes us a little bit.
It's true.
And
It
I want
grounds
to,
you.
100%. And I want to tell people to spend more time, 20 minutes. Don't do an hour. Don't make it a big exercise.
Yes.
But take your kids in the day. But and I know the technical stuff is where we sometimes lose consumers, but just take me through this quickly. You've got the specialized mowers and the everyday mowers.
Correct.
Just give us a bit of insight into those two different worlds.
Right. So we would call them consumer and prosumer.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And then obviously there's the professional stuff,
Yes.
which I won't touch on. It's the golf course and the golf mows, the bowling greens, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And South Africa has some exceptional manufacturers of that type of thing, like Protea Lawn as well.
Yeah.
Who's the guys running that are producing a fantastic product geared at that market.
Okay.
Our business is. We've got the consumer side is our Rolux Magnum X range.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's sold through all sorts of retailers. It's sold online. But that is for that person who wants to be in their garden for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, once a week, cut your lawn, get it done. And it's geared at that individual at that price point. It's not at the bottom. It's not right at the top. At the top of the consumer market, almost into the professional, is our professional range. And professional, as I was saying earlier, used to be a brand that we've now incorporated into the Rolux group.
Yeah.
The professional high vac is used by just about every garden service in the country.
Yeah.
And when you see a yellow machine on the back of a bucky or a garden service, it's probably a professional high vac.
Yeah.
It's much thicker, it's much stronger, it's durable, it's got nylon wheels. The point being that when it's used for 9 hours a day for 3 years solid, it still works.
Yeah.
Obviously needs to be serviced, but it's geared to that, putting on the back of the bucky and dropping it off market.
Yeah.
Whereas the Rolux Magnum range is geared for the guy sitting at home. It's not going to be on and off.
Yeah.
The cylinder range, the cylinder range is geared towards people who want to create lawns as opposed to cut lawns. They want to create lawns.
Okay.
And the whole point of that is that whereas a rotary lawnmower, and again, apologies to get technical, but the rotary lawnmower swings a blade.
Yeah.
We call it blunt force trauma, on the lawn.
Okay.
Whereas the cylinder mower cuts the lawn like a pair of scissors.
Okay.
When you cut the lawn like a pair of scissors, you can imagine cutting every piece. It doesn't flake, it doesn't break.
Yeah.
And the health on your lawn is better. So if you were to tear a piece of paper, that's blunt force trauma on the piece of paper, and it's not straight. Whereas if you cut it with scissors, it's smooth and perfect.
Yeah.
That's what our cylinder machine does.
Okay.
And so that's those two are aimed at the top end of the domestic market, people who love their lawns and want to create lawns. The Rolux Magnum range is geared towards people who just want to cut their lawns but wants a machine that lasts. And then the golf course market uses what's called our green machine, or golf green machine, and that's used to cut really, really, really low. So if you wanted to put a putting green into your garden, they would use that range. So that's kind of the spread that we've got across the range. And obviously we've got ancillary products like brush cutters and chainsaws and that sort of thing. But really our business is built around that core range.
So it's incredible because, part and parcel of that, and I say to South African companies, and I hope that some of them are listening here, that we have to step up our service market. And me and you spoke earlier, there's incredible passion in South Africa for businesses. But one thing that I really picked up online with you, because we obviously build things to last, most brands do, but there's maintenance, there's things that could potentially go wrong.
Yes.
And when you're dealing with lawn in all different of those sectors, there could be things and pieces on the lawn that actually damage a lot of these products.
That's right.
So backup and service is fundamentally important when it comes to a brand like yours. What is your mind shift on that? And if I say mind shift, your dad, Guy, I bought a machine here that's standing over here right now, and we assembled the thing wrong. Please, embarrassing moment for us there. But we couldn't get it switched on.
Okay.
We called your dad, and he was literally getting in his car to come here. And I was like, hold on, you know what I mean? It's this. I bought a small product from you. Don't worry about getting in your car and coming to sort it out.
Yeah.
But he followed up the next morning because we got it sorted out. You know, we found our own mistake, and he followed up the next morning, and I was like, you know, I'm a 3,500 rand consumer with you that spent this with you, and the follow up to that. It's so inspirational to see that.
Thank you.
And that's the type of care that happens. And you guys have got this beautiful new shop here, close to the Douglasdale police station as well. There, I'm right.
In Randburg, yeah, it's in Stratton Park.
In Randburg, Stratton Park. Sorry, my apologies, Randburg, Stratton Park. And you just feel, if you look at all your online reviews, and Stuart's not easy to do because it's very easy to sell a product. It's not, it's the more difficult thing is to back it up.
Yes.
Because that product is on your product, it's a price point. It's a product that sits there and hopefully consumers buy it. But to back up takes effort. It takes a conscious mind to do that.
Yes.
And that's how you build brand,
Totally.
or part of it.
Totally.
So
Look, I'm preempting your question.
no, you've got it.
For us, we are a customer service business.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, you know, our view is that if somebody really wanted to replicate our products,
Yeah.
they can.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not like we've got intellectual property. Yes, we've got tools and molds and all those sorts of investments that we've made. But I'm saying if somebody really wants to go and sell a lawnmower, they're welcome. They can do it. Yeah. But not everybody can give personalized customer service. And my dad's philosophy is if a person spent R1 with us, they are customers for life. And so our view as customer service is just the absolute key. You know, I often do personal deliveries myself. My dad does deliveries himself. My brothers do. My wife does. We all do because we want to get to know the customer that is there. I mean, if we get a phone call from a customer who's particularly bought, you know, let's say this particular machine and you're struggling to put it together, that's a problem for us. It means that we've created a problem and the problem needs to be solved. And the people who've got to solve the problem are us. If we don't take accountability for that, then who is? Nobody gives a shit about your business as much as you should.
Yeah.
You know, and that's our mentality. Is it scalable? Maybe it's not scalable,
it's difficult.
But I actually don't care because at the end of the day, I want people to know that I would rather sell less product knowing that we can treat everybody with the best possible service that we can give. And if we can't solve your problem, we're happy to deal with that problem then afterwards, you know. But customer service for us is just the be all and end all. An example is online, on Facebook, we are very active in the American community now, and every single customer that has bought a machine from us has a support group on Facebook Messenger that we're able to interact with them. And it's not just for problems that they encounter, it's for advice that they want to give us. It's advice that we think we can give them. So for us to create that with a customer means that we are giving them a personalized experience of our brand. And our view is that the investment right now is big because taking that time costs a lot of money. Not only money, but effort. And stress. Conscious effort. But in the long run, we feel like that will be the difference between us and anyone else out there who thinks that they can make a lawnmower.
Yeah.
You know, that's the truth. Lawnmowers are almost commodity businesses, you know, commodity products. But what isn't a commodity is great customer service.
Yes.
And what I think as South Africans, we don't realize is that we are better at customer service than anyone else in the world.
Yeah.
You cannot compare our level of customer service to that anywhere else. You can see it in restaurants, the way that our waiters and waitresses are.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Go travel and experience it for yourself.
Absolutely. When Americans or Brits or Australians come to South Africa and they experience our level of customer service, wherever you are, the smiley faces, the laughing, you know, people behind the counter you can have a joke with, you can have a laugh with. They do not get that anywhere else. It's like you're looking and talking to a computer. And I think that that's the one thing we can give that nobody else can give.
You know, Stu, it's so true that you say there. And what's so nice about you, and everybody can see this online, you guys live it and breathe it. But I want to say to you that I understand in the beginning, but there's a big strategy around that. Because you make that effort in the beginning, it's forever. Forever, 20 years from now, I will still feel that I'm buying into a family.
Yeah.
And I'm buying into a brand that knowingly, whether the family is there or not, because you've created that culture, I'll get back up in service.
Yes.
Your dad only had to do that once, but you've got a lot of customers, and it's very important that we say it there. It takes a lot of conscious effort. Some days we feel better about it, and some days we have the energy for it, and sometimes we just don't.
Yes.
You know, and you have your own frustrations and moments to deal with because life happens.
Yes.
But it's amazing that no matter where you guys go at the moment, that's definitely a brand reputation that you have built up, and that's going to serve you for a long time going forward. And I want to jump into some of that organic stuff because I know that you're in the Middle East. And I hope I'm not going too much around the table here, but I know that you also have some stuff in the Middle East. But what's very much on everybody's lips at the moment is the American market that you've gone into.
Yeah.
And I just want to say a few things. So I saw you had some issues in the beginning.
Lots.
But what's amazing to me, I saw social media photos of your boxes being completely destroyed in delivery. You complained about, and not complained very, I'm using it very lightly there, about the challenges in payments received.
Yeah.
You know, PayPal specifically,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
came up. And we need to talk about that because the origins of them are South African.
Correct.
You know, take us through that because you do it better than I've seen anybody do it.
Our view on our story and our brand and our family is pure honesty and truth.
Yeah.
And to say that we've had challenges in this American market and the South African market is an understatement.
Yeah.
I mean, we came into this industry not knowing a single thing about it. I didn't know a thing about the South African steel business. I knew nothing about manufacturing really in South Africa. And particularly on the backdrop of people wanting to get away from South Africa. Okay. So now you've got to come in and breed your own positivity. And what we found is that being honest and authentic online has helped us to deal with it as well.
Okay.
Personally deal with it. The trauma that we've had to deal with has literally been tears.
Yeah.
In the United States, my brother and I were there busy assembling machines on our hands and knees. Just let me walk you through it quickly. When we moved into the States, we built all the machines. Our team did it in record time. We shipped in a container just to see where we would get. We pre-sold that whole container. Everyone's all excited. Then PayPal doesn't release our money. Now we've got bills to pay, but PayPal's holding on to our money. You know, they're still holding on to the money. So it's not a problem that we've solved, but we have found ways to generate other cash to be able to carry on. Okay. But it's still a challenge we're dealing with. But the other thing that happened was we realized that the engines that we were going to send into America, which are American engines, actually didn't meet American emissions compliance standards. And so we were shocked to see that. Now all of a sudden our teams built these machines that are getting boxed. Now we had to take them all out of the box, take the engines off. We had to ship chassis to America, no engines. So we said, well, let's not let that hold us back. Let's just go for it. Started shipping them over. Now we had to work out which engines to put on in the States. So I got hold of the senior vice presidents at Briggs & Stratton in the US. I said, you got to help me here. Very willing to help. They were super nice about it. They understood our story. They knew we were buyers here. But now the problem is we've got to find a place to put those engines on. We, through Briggs & Stratton, found a factory in Statesboro that was willing to help us. They received the engines and they received the chassis. But when the chassis arrived in the States, the boxes had tilted over in the container and all of them had fallen over. So we arrived to boxes on their sides. Now my brother and I, Bruce and I, arrived to see this going, I mean, can this get any worse?
Give us a break.
Give us a break. Just please. You know, we haven't received any money from PayPal. We've now got machines that are buggered and all of them are pre-sold. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
What speaks to the hardiness of our team is that our entire team back home were on hand to help, even though they were 6 hours behind us. Yeah. So the guys all jumped in. Every single person, male, female, jumped in to help, you know, as from afar as much as they could. We opened up all the boxes. A testament to the machine is that the machines were actually fine with just paint damage. So we then had to find somewhere to paint them, managed to paint them. But then we realized that there was a shaft that we'd received in on the machines that didn't have a groove. So then we had to find a CNC company. To machine in a groove. So we found
and unplanned. All of this
is unplanned.
Yeah.
My brother and I are the least technical people in the business, particularly me. And now we're sitting there trying to deal with all this technical stuff, and the only reason we went over and not our technical team is because we've got British passports, so we were able to get in without visas. So you see, but this is the entrepreneurial mentality, is just make it happen. Make it happen. Now, when we all thought all was said and done and we were happy and the shafts were done and the machines were great and we put them all back together, we boxed them perfectly, exactly how we had boxed them in South Africa, and we put 14 in a row, and UPS came and collected them, and the next day they arrived at customers in balls of steel. I mean, the boxes you saw the pictures. It was just shocking. We were flabbergasted. The first customer who got his box put it straight online, didn't contact us, put it straight online, and so everybody could see. And that was only one had been received from. At an actual customer. We made the decision straight away. We're going to rebuild 14 machines, all 14 of them, and we're going to ship them out to customers before they even get the box, because we just assumed that the boxes were going to be stuffed. And it wasn't a cheap decision. These are expensive machines.
I was just going to say,
But our view was, get ahead of the problem. Don't assume that. Don't wait for the customer to phone and say my box is broken. Get ahead and get them a machine that works, or at least when they receive the first machine and it is stuffed or isn't stuffed, we've made a backup plan. And so we shipped off those products before most of them had even received their boxes. The positive vibe that created on our American group was second to none. And I think proves what we try to do: solve the customer's problem before it's a problem for them. Like, get in your car and come and deal with the person's machine, solve the problem, and then deal with the process and the money and everything else afterwards. That's our mentality. That's what my dad has ingrained in us. It's what we ingrain in all of our staff: solve the customer's problem. And I think that look, it helped us a lot from a reputation point of view. It wasn't great. It's cost us a fortune of money. But then, we've had various other problems along the way, but that was genuinely the hardest one to deal with.
From an outside perspective, it sounds horrible.
No, it was
But
tough.
you probably didn't have time to take it all in.
No.
You just had problem, resolve. Problem, resolve.
Yes.
So it just kept your mind occupied.
100%.
But now in hindsight, you're like, this is a story to tell for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely. And there were legitimate tears. It's heartbreaking. You've put your heart and soul into this. You've planned this for a long time. And then this happens, and you've got comments being made about you and your brand and your family, and what people don't understand is that this is our family's livelihood, and you explain to people, what's said about us, we take personally. We're not a massive, huge billion-dollar corporate. We see every single comment, and it hurts us when something isn't positive. And so we will do anything to try and make their negative experience into a positive one.
But that chatter online, because it is, even with friends, and I always say with family, that by default you sort of close, but the first challenge in the family brings you either closer or breaks you apart. And it's the same thing for me in business. A customer that comes in and has a bad experience, if you turn that experience genuinely with the right intent over, to me, it's almost, you sometimes want that.
Yes.
Because it does create a loyalty for life.
Absolutely.
And it tells the customer that, when you drive a car or whatever the case might be, the first time that something goes wrong or needs to be serviced is really when you know whether you made the right investment or not. It's not up front. Because up front, everything looks perfectly fine. But it's when something goes wrong that you really know. And it's the same thing with your house or your builder. And we also know it's the same thing with landscaper, which you guys deal a lot with. It's all wonderful and fancy, but it's the day that you call them and say, listen, guys, this went wrong or this went wrong. Them having a choice to say, well, I'll see you in 5 days' time. I'm sure we'll sort it out. Or this is really serious to me. I apologize for that experience. Let me rectify it with immediate effect. That's the difference between a customer for then or for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And I never have to see that owner again. I now know when the shit hits the fan, they're there.
Correct.
So that's loyalty for life.
That is 100% right. The sale, people make the assumption that the sale that you've made is the sale and that's it. Well done, we've made the sale, we've earned the 100 Rand or whatever the number might be. And that's it. No way. You've created an obligation.
Yeah.
That's what's happened.
Yeah.
By selling somebody something, you've created an obligation for yourself. The obligation to treat that person or that company with total respect and to support them for as long as they've got that purchase.
Yeah.
And onwards.
Yeah.
You know, it's very similar to our machines are very much like lashes. They last forever.
Yeah.
And so a machine could be 20 years old and still be used by a customer. That customer needs to know that they can get the parts.
Yeah.
If you can't get the parts, they need to know that you can give them a solution somehow. So we inherited, when we bought the business, we inherited millions of people who have our machines,
Yeah.
even if we didn't physically make the sale.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's very important. If a machine's been sold 5, 6, 7 times, or a product's been sold 5, 6, or 7 times, it's up to us to still make sure that they are looked after.
I see, that's incredible. And where success is supposed to be a lot more inspirational than that. And the people that really make it don't really care what they drive, what they look like, as long as you look professional, as long as your building is well maintained, and it's not always about being the fancy bancy on the street.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. The most successful people that I know are hidden. You know, you don't know that they're very, very successful. What they've done is they've created unbelievable things on the back. So, you know, I've got a family friend who runs a big mining company, or it's a mining services company. They live out in the north in Limpopo. Nobody, you know, they've got an office here in Johannesburg, but you would never ever know sitting next to them at a table that they are hugely successful.
Yeah.
But it's because their passion lies in it's not about the fancy things that they can afford to buy. It's about making people happy.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yes, they're in the mining business. We're in the business of letting people enjoy their time in their garden. You alluded to it earlier, and I wanted to comment on it. It's that 20 minutes in your garden or half an hour in your garden is so good for you and for your soul. And we are trying to get people to realize that and remember that. It's not a chore to cut your lawn. If you actually just think about the great things that come with it, your kids being outside with you, smelling the plants now that it's spring, you know, you're starting to smell those honeysuckles popping out. Like, those are great things that people forget about because we're so stuck indoors on our phones.
Yeah.
You know, and I find that to be quite sad. But when you're utilizing a tool or you're using a wheelbarrow. I mean, I use my lasher wheelbarrow to push my kids around the garden.
Yeah.
They love it, and I love it. It's times like that I think are really few and far between. I think people are starting to come back to realizing that that's actually really great. You don't have to be sitting on TV watching TV. You don't have to be on your phone watching Instagram and being jealous of people who've got all these fancy things. It's the simple things actually that are much more that can give you way more personal satisfaction.
You know, my daughter the other day, she's now 4.5, and, you know, I'm not the best DIY guy, Stu, or the best gardening guy. I love it, though.
Yeah.
I have my challenges, and trust me, my wife every now and again, okay, just get the professionals in now, okay? We don't want to mess this up any further.
Don't worry, might set this up.
So the other day, but what I find is that I try and finish things with her always. You know, when we spend a bit of time in the garden on a Sunday, when I take her out, I've got a little bit of place where we putt a little bit in golf. Yeah. It's about putting away the clubs. It's about taking out the clubs, putting them away afterwards again. You know, it's taking the hose pipe and rolling it up. It sounds very small stuff, but I've seen that in a personal life. She would take the toys, it would now be packed up after being used.
Right.
And to me, that's a direct correlation between that. And if we really want to inspire our kids, and I'm really saying to consumers, this sounds completely silly, but you're 100% right. We're now used to families waking up on a Saturday or Sunday, and it's this watching into a phone. Yeah. And before you know it, your whole day is very differently. Instead of waking up in the morning and going and walking a little bit.
Correct.
So we did this morning for 10 minutes, and we just went past people's houses, and you just see this beautiful flowers now coming to light again. You know, people getting ready for the summer to be converted. And the thing is, Stu, I'm very conscious that we speak from a very privileged position. You know, that it can't be everybody's life.
Correct.
You know, everybody doesn't have that opportunity and
Yes.
that privilege to do that.
Yes.
But I see this very much so in the rural areas as well. When we go into the rural areas, they care for their lawn, they care for their yard, you know, they care for their building.
Yes.
Those are exactly the same pride, you
Yes.
know, and that's why, but at the same time, Steve, that's why companies like us have to do what we do so that we can grow employment, we
Yes.
can grow opportunities, and we can give other people the opportunities and foundations in order to grow in the same way.
Absolutely, 100%. I noticed that some of our most loyal customers are those in the rural areas.
Yeah.
We are definitely from a position of privilege,
Yeah.
and I have been my entire life.
Yeah.
And we're very conscious about trying to support like small previously disadvantaged entrepreneurs in the township areas. There's one company called Garden Stoners who we do a lot of work with now. You know, the guy who runs that business is doing all sorts of projects now, but it started with one chainsaw and one brush cutter and one lawnmower.
Yeah.
You know, and now we're seeing he's employing plenty of people, and that's growing so nicely. That's a small example, but the reason he started his business was because he wanted a place, an outdoor space in his area. I think it's Orange Grove.
Yeah, Orange Grove, yeah.
To for people to go and enjoy, and he made that his personal project. And from there on, he's made this beautiful place, and from there on, he's now built out his own little business. And that's just the story of how people, no matter whether you're rich or poor, care about where they live and and how they live.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a big house or a small house, whether it's a flat, or, you know, and you've got little plants on your windowsill, or you've got a big garden. I think we also have an obligation, you know, like you said, to assist those people to understand and to create a life that everyone can be happy about, and supporting South Africa and South Africans is first and foremost for us. If South Africa could produce everything on our machines, we would 100% do it here. Some of the stuff is done in America. Just about every engine on earth is made in China.
Yeah.
You know, but if we could produce everything here, we would.
Yeah.
And for us, it's about seeing our employees and our employees being happy and being able to afford things for their families, you know, and the amount of work that like the average South African puts in to support their family is, I mean, it's, I can't do it, you know. The amount, like the guys in our factory, they work so hard, their wives work so hard, their kids are working so hard, you know, to just try and afford a life, and I want to try support them, you know, and try get them to be as successful as they can be.
You know, Steve, thanks for sharing that with us. And I know by 2030, there's some stats that show that by 2030, you know, the plumbers, the electricians, the people that can work with their hands and skills, you know, in the next few coming decades, it's going to be a skill that's just going to disappear more and more.
Yeah.
And that's going to become so in demand around the world. And I always say we've created the society now that, you know, you come out of that world, like you said, investment banking world. But I want us to honor again the man that can work with his hands,
100%.
the guy that can clean the
trade.
Do the trade.
Yes.
I want to honor those guys again. And when did we get to a place where, if you're a bricklayer, if you are a plumber, if whatever that might be, where did we get to a place where those are not the highest of societies? And I don't mean it but nowadays it's like, no, we encourage that. Where we come from in our world, we see it. Boilermakers are becoming more and more challenging to do. People that create molds in factories and steel.
Tool makers.
Those things are a dying breed.
Yes.
You know, and the problem is in the future, it doesn't matter what AI technology, social media you're going to bring in. Somebody physically still have to get on and repair the pole.
Yeah.
When a sewage drain is blocked in a big town or a big suburb or whatever it might be, everything else falls flat.
Correct.
No AI, no technology is going to make that go away.
Absolutely right.
And it's amazing, and I see this movement in America as well, where people are saying, no, that's bullshit. You know, the people in the financial institutions, not that we don't respect it, not that we understand that that's a massive need and a real thing that you need in society. but you're not building anything.
Yes.
You know, what you're doing here, you come out of that world, you guys come here as a family, you create this massive employment opportunity. And we spoke a little bit earlier. How many people do you affect in employment?
Yeah, thousands.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands. And where you came from, I'm not taking anything away from those companies, but they've been built for decades and sometimes for hundreds of years.
Correct.
They've got foundational wealth. They've got generational
Yes.
wealth. It is different to start in those companies.
100%.
You start in a cushy salary, your growth is beautiful path out for you.
Yeah.
But in a business, you better make it work yourself.
Correct.
A plumber that doesn't do a plumbing job today doesn't earn money.
Correct.
There's no annuity income from somewhere.
Yeah.
There's no fancy check that comes your way.
Yeah.
You have to do what you need to do. You still then have to save. You have to invest into the future. You have to build annuity for you to retire one day, if that's part of your growth
Yes.
and plan. All of this, and still run the business and make the customers happy. And then we very much underappreciate it. And I must be honest with you, I'm at a place where I call bullshit now for people and consumers, that we have to start appreciating it. But here's the same thing, and I forgive me for going on here, Stu, because I want your opinion on this. We very much are in a place where we say to South African businesses, keep yourself accountable.
Yes.
Because we see in more and more builders not finishing sites, not coming back to fix things. You know, plumbers not consciously buying the right pipes that customers never see underground that 6 months later burst.
Yes.
All of them, we say, you have to keep going and doing the right things on a day-to-day basis.
Agreed.
Stop taking turns. Stop ruining the reputation of other people and other service providers because of your own inability to do the right thing.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, to come back, I think I qualified as a chartered accountant, very fortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. For whatever reason, chartered accountants command a premium.
Yeah.
I still don't understand it. But in any case, when you are at school, you're told, go become an accountant, a doctor, a lawyer. This is how it was when I was at school.
For sure.
Nobody was told, go become an electrician, a plumber, go become a bricklayer, go become a tradie, go and become a tool maker.
Yeah.
Over the course of my career, I've come to understand that firstly, I wasn't designed to be an accountant.
Yeah.
Secondly, people who can do those trades and those skills are far more skilled than I will ever be in my life.
Yeah.
And I have started to develop this understanding and appreciation for those skills. My brother-in-law is an aircraft mechanic. Okay, he was not an engineer. He was working down in the Eastern Cape, working on airplanes, getting paid almost nothing for a crucial job of looking after airplanes.
Yeah.
He's decided, I can't live like this, flew over to Australia, and he's getting paid a small fortune to do the same work. Why? Because tradie and trade skills there are appreciated. Same as in America. If you become a truck driver, a big tow truck driver in America, you are highly appreciated. Yep. Why? Because people have to do those jobs. Yeah. People have to become plumbers. People have to become electricians. You have to become a builder. You need those critical things for an economy to work. In South Africa, I feel like a lot of those skills are disappearing because they're realizing that we, as the people who are regarded as the skilled or the business people, or whatever you want to call us, haven't appreciated the value of those electricians, plumbers, and the like. And so we've created our own problem here. You know, those people have disappeared. A good example is maybe the people who worked at Eskom.
Yeah.
You know, they've gone. They're long gone. They aren't coming back. So now we've got skills that have disappeared, and unfortunately, what can we do now to get those people back? What we as consumers, I think, have to do is start paying them properly, and recognizing them and their skills. I think we've got to provide them with high quality tools, and I think that you guys do that exceptionally well. And I think we've got to call out those people who are not doing proper jobs. Yeah. So I've had the problem with a plumber who's come back 3 times and sent me 3 bills. I'm like, no. Yeah. Doesn't work that way. Do it properly. You know, otherwise I'm going to find someone else. You know, I think what's been really interesting on the electrical front is the solar story, because you've got obviously a lot of fly-by-nights who are just popping into the industry.
Because the point of entry or the barrier to entry is very low. Yeah.
And those people who are exceptional have started commanding exceptionally high prices. Yeah. Deservedly, because they are doing a great job. They're doing it right. They're doing it right the first time, and they're trying to build a customer for life, almost like we are, or like Lash is. Yeah. And so I think that the solar thing has really helped there. I think that on the water side, we might see the same problem. So we're going to see the great plumbers popping through. Yeah. You know, and but I mean, I definitely am. I'm of the view that we are underappreciating those trades and those skills. very much. And the garden services are the same. They do an
should think so.
exceptional job. And if they don't do a job today, they're not getting paid.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really tough for them. And then they've still got to go home and deal with the same stress as we do.
Yeah.
You know?
And I really like what we are talking about here. The other part is I want people to review them a bit better.
Yeah.
When you have a good experience with a plumber, or with the service provider, or with the builder, or with a small business like yourself, bloody go and review them.
Yes.
I know it takes a bit of effort. Trust
Yeah.
me, I completely get that.
Yeah.
But isn't this whole life, and it is now a digital sense, that we encourage inspiration, inspire, but also recognize each other as we go along?
Absolutely, and I think we've become a culture. I think globally become a culture of criticizing, as opposed to recognizing.
Yes.
And so we're very quick when we have a bad experience to go online and review the poor stuff.
Yes.
But we're not good at going on and saying, you did a great job, thank you so much.
Yes.
And saying, Mr. Plumber, you were exceptional. I'll give you a small example that I had. We had a carpet cleaner come in and clean some of our carpets a few months ago. On the way in to bring one of the carpets back, the driver drove straight into my gate. My gate fell off.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was livid.
Yeah.
So I had a choice. Do
Yeah.
I put it online and complain about the carpet service? Or do I phone the owner and say, listen, this is what's happened.
Give him an opportunity.
To give him a chance to deal with
Yeah.
it. So I went with that route. The guy was there within half an hour. He had a crew of people that he had called in at last minute to come and put my gate back on and fix it as best he could. And afterwards, it still wasn't working right. He came back again and he fixed it again. That, to me, deserves all sorts of praise. I could have easily written a terrible review
Correct.
about his driver crashing into my gate. He got an opportunity to do right, and he did right. And now that carpet cleaner, even if the gate story had nothing to do with the carpet, I'm going to recommend that carpet cleaner all day long.
I was just going to say,
You know,
for the rest of your life.
yeah, and so we've got this culture of criticizing before actually saying, well, come on, guys, let's help. Like, I want to give a positive review. I like, thank you for doing this, or thank you for doing that, or you so-and-so at Pick and Pay, in aisle 4, checkout counter 4. You had a great smile today, and I loved just being around you. You were a fantastic person to be around. There was a small example. I was at a Checkers the other day, and there was a trainee person, and she was so nervous, but she was so nice to me. And so I wrote to the manager at the shop and said, whatever her name was, and she was at checkout 5. She was a trainee. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
She was so nice and positive to be around. Just wanted to let you know. Like, make their day.
Yes.
It's not all about them making your day.
Yes.
Yeah,
I want to talk a little bit about the trade, because just before we go into, because I want to ask a few stuff about your international stuff still, but let's just look at the local market quickly. How are you being supported in the local market as well, Lux?
So we found unbelievable support from particular customers. So the likes of the Chamberlains and the Micahs and some of the independent dealers. We've had less success with the mass stores, and it's a work in progress. But at the end of the day, it'll come when it comes.
Yes.
In terms of the distribution base. In terms of the end customers are flocking for our machines. It's so our direct-to-consumer sales through our websites have gone wild. Our take-lot sales have gone wild, and that's because what I find sometimes is that if you've got a great relationship with a buyer at a distributor or a retailer, they will easily put you in front. And that's a relationship you develop over time. Sometimes in the past, I think Rolux has burnt itself with some of the buyers, and those wounds take a while to heal. We're getting there with some of them. But for the most part, I mean, the end customer knows our brand very much like they know Lasher. And so it's not a hard sell when you put it in front of them. But if a customer can't buy our product from, say, a Macro or a Builders, they'll go online and they'll buy it. It is what it is. And so that's the benefit that we've got now. We've got this brand affiliation. People are happy to buy online. Take-A-Lot is absolutely pumping. But the end customers are really, for us, no offense to the distributors and the retailers, but the end customer is who matters. The person who uses your machine is actually who matters. Even if they're not the person paying your bill at the end of the day, they're the person who's using your machine. They're reviewing your machine. They're the one who's going to either make or break you. And so our whole focus is on that person.
So especially in the South African landscape, because On the one side, 2020 was such a boom for online sales. And I know we had a few booms between that, but all of a sudden it's become the norm, to order something that's garden related, DIY related online and get it into your front doors.
Yes.
But there's also challenges to dealing with trade. And I want you to talk on this because on the one side, you've got trade, which comes with rebates, comes with a dealership price because they have to make margin. They've got overheads, the building, rentals and all of that.
Totally.
Versus the consumer purchasing online, getting it delivered to him and backing him up a service. It's a very different world that those two exist.
Correct.
But in the South African flair, we see the physical stores is such an important thing for us still because consumers have also made it community buying.
Right.
They support their local hardware store.
Agreed.
And Chamberlain's is a very, very good example of still having that family flair, good customer service, educated representatives on the floor that helps you into the right direction.
That's right.
But then that also comes with training and all sorts of operational things that you have to do as a brand versus the end consumer.
The majority of our business is built on independent dealers and micas are included there because they're pretty much owned and they're pretty much operated by the owner.
Yeah.
We have found that the personal relationships we can build with those individuals has resulted in them supporting us and us supporting them.
Yeah.
The problem that I've got with big retailers is that if they don't sell your product, they send it back to you.
Yeah.
Then there's all sorts of complications around rebates, and there's all sorts of complications around agreements and contracts and this and that and all the bureaucracy that I actually, and my business doesn't have the time to deal with.
Yeah.
We're busy selling to individual customers directly on Take-A-Lot and having virtually no problems.
Yeah.
Same as through our website. We're able to give those individuals personalized support. We're able to give the dealers personalized support. Chamberlain's is a great example. We can phone the buyer in our category. We have a great conversation. We can go to those stores. They're relatively close by to us. We know who's involved there. It's not complicated. It's easy. They treat us well and we treat them well, or we try our best to treat them well. And if they've got an issue with an end customer, we'll deal with that end customer for them. It's when it becomes impersonal, where we become just a transaction, that I'm not a massive fan.
Yeah.
And I find it to be disrespectful in some respects.
Yeah.
We make a big investment bringing product in, manufacturing product, putting product out there, and for it to then be sent back to you because they haven't necessarily put the efforts in to sell it is where I get a little bit frustrated.
Yeah.
And this is me wearing my heart on my sleeve because I think that there's got to be more done. The beauty about the independent dealers, hardware stores, the Micas, Chamberlains, is that they are willing to take a longer term view with you, work with you to try and sell the product, as opposed to making it your responsibility to sell your product in their store.
Yes.
And I get very, very frustrated by it, as you can see.
Yeah.
Because in America, we're dealing direct to consumer. We have a personal relationship with those individuals. We'll deal with their problems, and it works.
Yeah.
I now have the database of that individual as well. I know who they are. I know who's bought our products. That's hugely valuable to us as a brand. It's hugely valuable to our customer service proposition. And so I feel like the Chamberlains, out of all the big sort of builders type companies, has the perfect balance actually, and that's again me wearing my heart on my sleeve, but it's the truth. The independent lawnmower companies, garden service companies in this country do incredibly well, and they're not that well known. But the reason they do well is because they provide great service, and they support us as much as they support their end customer, and we support them in return.
Well, let's just hop onto Chamberlain's. So in lockdown period, everybody that supplies Chamberlain's got a letter, and it stated, we're happy to give you predetermined orders. So we're happy to advanced orders to you in this particular time of need. Because remember, we no one saw the purple patch coming.
Yes.
Okay? So there was that lockdown period where everybody went into a panic.
Yes.
Awkward. What's going to happen? Is this going to open up? And from your perspective, supply, international, all of that worries and concerns. And they said, we'll pay you upfront and settle your bills and your invoices earlier. That's not a public thing. People don't know that this happened. And that was David Chamberlain, Uncle Wim David Chamberlain, as I call him, that sent that letter out. that loyalty is for life.
100%.
For life. I mean, after you sent out a letter than that, and Lasher was in a fortunate position that we did not need that assistance at the time.
Yes.
So we wanted other smaller service providers to be able to get that benefit from him. But that's something for life with us. The other day, the opposite effect of this, the other day we was with the customer. And please, end consumers need to understand, we come from a very humble place when we say these things. We've been around for 95 years, call it Lasher as a brand, and you guys for over 60 years. And he said to me in my face that we are the reason your brand is still alive in this area. I tell you what, Stu, it wasn't a good moment.
Yeah.
Because you always have to keep that balance between humbleness, appreciating their business. And I just took a moment and I said, sir, I want to stop you right there. We work very hard on guaranteeing our products, engaging with end consumers, whether it's sold out of your store or any other store, or any online store or physical store.
Yeah.
We make these products very consciously on a daily basis. We know our end consumers are asking for the brand in your stores, and that's a responsibility we take very seriously. I don't really appreciate that you position your capacity with us that way.
Yeah.
It turned into a positive at the end with that customer, because I think for the first time somebody challenged him on that thought process, where I say to everybody, we will always humbly support you, but I do not like entitlement. And when it comes to a bad attitude, we just don't want to deal with you whatsoever, because if that's your view on your customers
That's
as
right.
well. And to us, we don't want to be associated with that.
Yeah.
So these are real conversations, Stu, that always happens offline. You
Yes.
know, where we as dealerships, where we as brands and providers and manufacturers talk about, but for some reason, and it's bullshit, we want to support them, but it has to be a mutually beneficial relationship.
Totally agree. That arrogance of if you don't have us or we make you, that's not enough. That's not our family and our business philosophy is, if you treat us with disrespect, we're not going to work with you. I don't care how big you are,
who you are,
and I'm not afraid to challenge you on it either. If I think that you've done us wrong, I'm going to call you out on it. And that's the end of it. I don't care if you're potentially R100 million customer. I don't care, because I don't want my staff, my family, my other customers to feel in any way intimidated by what you are doing. And I think that level of arrogance is slowly, but it's always going to be there, but it's becoming less common, because I think that people are like what we've been talking about now, generally good people to deal with. And our mentality in our business is we deal with people we actually like to deal with, and people must like to deal with us. It's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street, you know. And so if one of our staff members is arrogant or horrible in the same way to somebody, apologies, we're not going to, that individual's not going to be part of our team, and we'll take that on the chin, because that's not right. It's a two-way street. Yeah.
And it's, you know, when we talk about local manufacturers, and I know that you have a fine balance in yourself, it's challenging to deal locally. You know, I believe if you go back 30 years, our GDP of manufacturing was something like 27%. We're down to like 11.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the lockdown period, we saw the importance of local manufacturers.
Correct. International supply chain was a nightmare.
Nightmare. I just want to dive into your local manufacturing.
Yes.
And if we say local manufacturing, it doesn't mean it doesn't come with an international flair, because we don't have engines produced in South Africa that can go onto your mowers.
Yeah.
But give me the balance of the footprint of your factories in South Africa.
So the majority of our factories are around Gauteng. We've got one. Just to take everyone back a little bit, when we bought the company, we had a full manufacturing plant in Hammanskraal, with incredibly old presses, tools, you name it. And the cost to get those back to a position where they were great would have been too much for us. We couldn't afford it. We needed to invest in product and people. At that point in time was also when COVID hit. So we didn't have the chance to be able to do any of this. And so in 2021, we'd made the decision to find 15 or 20 unbelievable local manufacturers who would take our presses, tools, molds, you name it, and they would then make parts for us.
Yeah.
Okay, and we would become more of an assembly plant. That would, number one, alleviate some of the seasonality impact, so it would make it a bit more variable for us. The second thing it would do is allow us to focus, and then they could in turn fix the tools and the molds as part of the as part of the cost. Okay, that's a strategic decision we made. Those factories are based largely in and around Gauteng, a lot in the West Rand, a lot in the East Rand, still lots in the Rosslyn area and Babalegi area.
Yeah.
But we also have like plastics that are produced down in the Knysna region, and we've got a whole bunch of parts that are produced in Durban. And so just about everything on the machine, bar a engine, is made in South Africa.
Okay.
And again, if we could make engines in South Africa, we would, but we can't compete against the Chinese on engines.
No.
You know,
And it's a big part of the cost.
It's a big part of the cost. I mean, on our cylinder machines, it's a smaller part. It's probably 15 to 18%. On our rotary mowers, it's almost half the cost, you know. And the problem is you can't get away from it. It's a working capital cost, it's a physical cost, it's a rand dollar you're worrying about, it's supply chain cost. And during COVID times, it was, 200,000 rand to get a container into South Africa, 40-foot container. It's fortunately dropped now, but that cost then gets passed on to the end customer, and what happens is we all just become price takers.
Yeah.
So the fact that we can't produce locally and that manufacturing is dying here means that we are all paying more for everything.
Correct.
And then we still put tariffs on imports.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly difficult for the consumer to now understand why manufacturing is dropping. The problem, the knock-on effect with our manufacturers is if they lose one job with a mine or with a Transnet or with Prasa or with SAA, their whole business could shut down. And we've seen that with many of our suppliers. We had some goods being produced by guys in the West Rand. They lost contract from Sibanya, and the reason why they lost the Sibanya work was because of the mine strike. When they lost that work, business dried up. They couldn't produce. They're done. Now, the knock-on effect for us is that we can't produce 90% of a lawnmower.
Yeah.
You've got to produce the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so we ended up having to find a new supplier. But that comes with its own challenges, So there's something to be said about doing it yourself. But again, then you've got capital constraints, you've got all sorts of other issues. And then you've got banks that don't necessarily want to fund CapEx, because they're saying, but it's manufacturing in South Africa, the trend isn't good. So then there's the banking issues you got to deal with and high interest rates. And it's as a manufacturer in South Africa, it is very, very challenging. Which forced us then to go and seek alternative forms of revenue, which is why we also moved over to the States.
Yeah, and because the reason that what global trade is so important for a lot of people, and from a business perspective, is margin bankability. You can make slightly more margin in other areas, which subsidizes a lot of the cost in local markets. And people don't understand, but that's exactly what happens in China. When we say, oh, but South African companies are so much more expensive, that's absolutely not true. It is simply an economic effect. What we pay for electricity, labor costs, ISO processes, all of that is a direct cost to local manufacturing companies. And what we have to do in the back end to keep the cost low and still be competitive, because we always say, you can say it's the best product on the market, great service and background, but you still has to be relevant and consciously relevant within that particular market.
Yes.
You can't, it's great to say I'm going to make the best car in the world, but if you're going to do it for 2 million rand, well, you're going to be restricted as to who can buy it and purchase it. So it's a very big balance between the two, and that's why it's important that we appreciate the global support in South African companies, because it helps subsidizes a lot of the costs that we have here locally. The other thing is that if you look at the African market, what people don't always realize is there your margins gets even squeezed more, because it's not a European or American market, so therefore the exchange rate vulnerabilities doesn't really exist in the African markets. So we always have to sell for slightly less in certain markets in order to be relevant, because just like you, we see that cheap manufacturing, dilution of brands, meaning that like you said, the point of entry. So somebody goes and makes a lawnmower, brings it in. Yours is 4,000 rand. Theirs is 2,000 rand. But there's a reason. There's a 2,000 rand price tag to that.
Yeah.
It doesn't last as long.
Correct.
There isn't always service and parts to do. And in most cases, they just replace the mower instead of servicing it afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, these are some of the things that we deal with. And I always say to consumers, I'm not asking for your emotional support.
Yes.
I'm asking because we are the best at what we do. And it's always in fair value.
It's right. And this is where I have a problem with some of the retailers out there, because they're saying, your product's too expensive. I'm like, it's a little bit more expensive, but that's because it comes with the quality benefits. It's got a longer warranty. It's produced in South Africa. Okay, no, but we want to sell something that's cheaper. We know that we can sell something that's cheaper. Yes, but it's plastic. It's going to break. You're not doing the customer service. And then there's this debate around, but it's priced out of the market. And it's very hard to have that conversation with a retailer when they're just trying to push you for price all the time. Whereas we're trying to say that quality has a value. You know, when we talk to the buyers, sometimes we say you'll be the first to admit that a quality product deserves to charge a bit more, but you're not willing to support the fact that, number one, we're South Africa made, number two, we're high quality, and number three, we deserve to be at a price point that's slightly higher. It is what it is. And so there's this challenge around those distributors, you know, and it frustrates me because when are we going to get to a position where we're saying the quality justifies the price? You know, we're not going to be giving our product away. You want that, you can go and buy it directly from China, bring it in and sell it. But I don't think the end customer wants that, particularly South Africans who are looking for quality stuff, you know. And you see it on all sorts of quality products. Jojo is another good example. I think, you know, unbelievable product. Those things last forever. And yet you've still got knockoffs of them.
Yeah,
you know.
time. And it's what you said there, you know, is so vitally important, because we don't always understand what we see in retail is really decided for us. You know, it's decided by that particular buyer. There's no conscious choice for us to make in there. Luckily, online has, call it
even the
playing field slightly, you know, and logistical companies that I find so incredible how South African companies have come to the party, and logistics and what they can do, technology they invested in, you know, now that you can just ship anything to anybody, and in most cases for in a day or 2 or 3 at max, you know, incredible gratification, you know, experience. I can purchase it today and get it delivered immediately. But what I will tell you is what we find is I still trust end consumers.
Yes.
Because end consumers still pull the value that they find.
Correct.
They want value. And also we get caught. So one day you're going to walk in there and probably say, oh, I'm going to buy a cheaper option. And again, I'm not disrespectful to people's pockets, because sometimes you just don't have that capacity. But I find that consumers are very conscious. I trust consumers, that they might make that mistake once, but they'll come back for the real deal afterwards.
Truth.
You know, and we are not talking in this world where we are saying Louis Vuitton and the Rolls Royce cars. No. We're not talking about that world, because that's a pure luxury item. We're talking about a fair value product that serves your life and that gives you peace of mind when you purchase it.
Yes. That's right. It's 100% right. You want to know that the brand's looking after you. You know, not only that you're buying something that's disposable, getting thrown in the bin.
Correct.
And yeah, well, we're definitely not talking here about the example in our world is in the cylinder mower space. It's an expensive item. Okay, we play in American terms, right in the middle of the market. You can go and spend $5,000, $6,000 on a worse version of our machine.
Yeah.
I mean, who on earth goes and does that except for pure vanity? Yeah. We don't play in that world, you know. Ours is made for the average American consumer to use, and it will last. And yet sometimes people say, oh no, you know, it's too cheap. And you're like, no, hold on a second. We're not here to try and rip the ring. We just want people to have a great quality product that lasts forever.
Yes.
You know, if you want to go and spend $6,000, be my guest.
Yes.
we soon believe that you're going to realize that our product is actually better
Yes.
and it's more affordable.
Yes.
And that's the common denominator. We're not trying to do cheap. We're trying to do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think if you produce products, Stu, in this type of mindset, I feel it's a very respectful thing to consumers. When we sit there and make decisions about virgin material and our poly stuff, when we decide to make a good product, and we say to ourselves, okay, well, we can make this cheaper, but it's not going to last very long. We make a conscious decision, no, we're not going to fall for that.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy at the moment between private labels to be chased down to the bottom.
Yeah.
But we stand very firm and say to ourselves, we know what our consumers want.
Yes.
And we spoke about this in differences. And I just want to quickly point on that point. So consumer, there's two of them. So the one is I'm going to buy a lawnmower and probably never use it. It's going to go to somebody, they're going to use it once a week, and I'm probably not even going to think about it again. Then in that consumer, you get the ones that's very passionate about gardening. There you'll find them more leaning towards the right brand. And again, conscious brand, not ego brand.
Yes.
And the third part of it is the trade. They understand, somebody that's going to be buying a vehicle today to travel 20,000 kilometers a year. It's a very different decision that somebody's going to put 200,000 kilometers on the car for the year.
Yes.
You care about, can it be
Absolutely
serviced
right.
everywhere?
Yeah.
If I break down on the road, is it backed up?
Yeah.
That's a very different world. And that's what we find in the trade. It's the people that use the tools 8 to 10 hours a day versus somebody that's using it or not even using it for half an hour or 45 minutes a week.
Correct.
Two very different worlds.
Totally different customers.
Very different, but I want the people that understand that the ones that are not using it on a daily basis still be conscious. And I find people, once you bring that consciousness to them, they do go, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
For an extra, in your world, it's probably 500 Rand to 1,000 Rand. In our world, it's maybe 80 Rand or 150 Rand or 200 Rand. I'm rather going to spend that for a fair value product.
Correct.
Plus, it's a good conscious decision.
Yes. Absolutely, 100% right. And then, unfortunately, the customer who doesn't go that route learns through an experience. Sometimes. And then they've been done wrong because they have to spend twice. But very, very, very much so. I mean, I want our products to be suitable for the professional, and therefore that the consumer has something that they know is suitable for the professional. But that is affordable enough for them to be able to afford, even if it means slightly more than what they were going to pay before. It's a quality justification. It's a backup service justification. It's a customer service justification. And you see that across multitude of products, including Lasher, and I can name a whole range of South African brands that do the same sort of thing. I mean, like the Rhino Cab guys, those Rhino Cab on the back of a bakkie. It's more expensive than something that you could go and buy, but it's, or Alu Cab, you know that it's good quality, and that's where they're succeeding. And braai companies are the same. You can go and buy a rubbish braai, but you could also go buy a proper, more expensive but longer lasting, well made, well backed up brand of braai as well.
So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about social media insights and fans, because you've grown a lot of the market. There's groups like Lawn Care Nuts, which I think is actually a global group. It has in different countries. But how have you used social media for your end consumer sales, communications, etc.? Because you do it very effectively. Companies with far less or more experience than you are doing it very shitty. Where did that all come from?
My dad is like he's like the chief of Facebook in our business.
Okay.
When he was in the pig farming industry, he built the Pig Association of South Africa, or Pig South Africa or something, into a group with many, many thousands of members. I mean, and it wasn't. He wasn't trying to build a group. What he was trying to do was to build a community of people who could sit and discuss something in common. And he has done the same thing with us in this lawn community. The Lawn Care Nuts was started by a guy called Bryce McDonald, and we're very friendly with Bryce, and we have Bryce with them every so often because we actually genuinely like them.
Yeah.
They're good people, you
Yeah.
know, and we just happen to have something in common with them.
Yes.
And when we sit around the table and have a braai with them, it's not like we're sitting only talking about lawnmowers. You
Yeah.
have all sorts of things in common, but the lawn care nuts are people who love their lawn and they love lawnmowers and they love like the feeling that you get when you're working on your machine or working on your lawn and the different things you can do and making your lawn look great. And they like to give advice to people. And through interacting with them, they've been incredibly supportive of us, not only here, but elsewhere in the world. When we were introduced into America, they were the first defenders of us, you know, and
Yeah.
it's not only that, it's not that we've nurtured that, it's that they genuinely care about our product and care about us, you know, and in return, we care about them. We are very, very responsive on Facebook, LinkedIn, not so much Instagram, probably should be more, but
Yeah.
Facebook and LinkedIn are the two that we're very, very active on. LinkedIn is my primary source or choice of platform, mainly because it speaks to the world that I'm in. You know, I was in the private equity world. I'm not that good at Facebook type interaction. My dad is incredibly good at it. You know, where you're not trying to argue with somebody, you're not trying to prove a point. What you're trying to do is be informative, but actively and consistently informative. On LinkedIn, it's more about sharing our downs and our ups. That's where I think people get inspiration from. Out of all of the posts that I've shared, or my dad or whoever in our company shared over the years, the ones that are telling you about our product don't get any engagement.
Yeah, I'm with
the
you.
ones that are people can relate to get all sorts of engagement. And it's not about engagement. We're not trying to do it for engagement. It's actually, I think I said earlier, it's about us getting it off our chest more than anything. It's like, this is what I've been dealing with, and it's legitimately stressful. One of the posts that I put up was about my own anxiety and depression, and it's haunted me my whole life.
Yeah.
And putting it out there has allowed me to realize that I'm not alone, and I've had hundreds and hundreds of people message me and say, that resonated, thank you. That's what makes me feel good, you know, that I'm not the only one, that I can help somebody else out in the world. You know, anxiety is what it is. I get anxiety not from doing like these sorts of chats. It's from day-to-day stresses. It's from my family, our livelihood in this thing. It's about dealing with other people's stresses. But the whole social media thing for us is about giving people authenticity again. You know, you have access to us like directly. You want to complain about our product? No problem. We'll respond directly to you. We'll treat you with the utmost respect. And through that engagement, you build a community of people that realize you're a human being and not a robot, you know, and same with LinkedIn. I'm not a fan of Instagram because I find it fake. I also find Facebook to be quite fake. LinkedIn is becoming a little bit more fake. And so this authenticity is just all of us trying to be human beings, you know. And when you give customers the ability to talk to you directly and to interact and to chat, that helps in return to build your brand. We don't do it actively to build our brand. We're not sitting there going, Rolux is this, and, you know, putting adverts out and all that. It's like, at Rolux, we like to do this. These are the challenges we're dealing with. These are, you know, it's trying to get people to understand us as human beings behind the brand, you know. And but you know, but you get brands that are built purely on Facebook advertising. Good for them.
Yeah.
I'm not in the business for that.
I want to just touch on the depression and anxiety part there, just for a little bit, because you're a strong, big presence guy, and I think men feel very weak when we speak about this stuff. And I think, you know, the same for across genders. You know, even my wife and I, that I'm always conscious. I don't want to show weakness, you know, and if I do, it will be only for a minute or two, and then I need to brush it off. You know, you can't be doing that. But actually what happens is when you speak about that, because I saw that post that you did there, it actually makes you stronger. And what I mean by stronger, it immediately you're a source of inspiration because it is relatable. You know, and I don't think just like we said earlier about growing up, because we get grown up to say you need to be a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever it might be. The same thing when we are growing up, we are being told to be strong. You know, just suck it up and just go on with life. Don't be concerned about that. But it catches up with you at some
hits
stage.
You, yeah. A good an example was yesterday afternoon. I phoned my two brothers and I said, "Guys, I'm actually man down. I felt physically ill because of stress and because of anxiety. It was manageable because I'm in a fortunate position that I can actually just go home, have a sleep, you know." And I say to my team, guys, and I've been brutally honest with them, and there's a lot of stress at the moment. Not only work stress. I've got 2.5-year-old twins, you know, that come with their own stresses. You know, I've got my family's stresses. They've got my stresses. Business, South Africa.
Yeah.
And then something minuscule happened yesterday, which was a customer online made a comment, and I saw it, about us and our brand. And boom, you fall off like a emotional cliff. And how is that for crazy? Out of all the stresses that you deal with in your life, that's the one little trigger.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because you actually give a shit.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
No, that's exactly
You actually
it.
give a shit. Like, I care about what people are saying about myself, my family, my friends, my brand, our competitors, whoever it may be. When you see that type of thing, especially online where it's a faceless person behind a computer, hits me for 6. And yesterday I hit a low. And I think people, like you say, see this persona or hear this voice and like see me online or whatever, and it's this super confident person. I'm very comfortable talking about stuff that I'm comfortable talking about.
Yeah.
But the hard thing is when the triggers happen, you hide away.
Yeah.
So nobody does see it.
Yeah.
And I've tried to be very active and vocal about when I'm feeling that way. And it's the same with our team. If guys are feeling emotionally drained, down, despondent, they must vocalize it, because internalizing it makes it a million times worse. And it's tough, you know, because also I think people go to things when they're depressed and anxious that they shouldn't, whether it's alcohol, drugs, you know, I don't know, you know, whatever it is that you use, but stuff that's not positive.
Yeah.
And the way to deal with it is talking about it, you know.
Stu, I'm really appreciated that we could quickly linger on that just for a second there, because it's so vitally important. And I don't have advice for people always. It's difficult for me sometimes. I'm not qualified always with the advice. But at least when we breach these conversations, somebody gets inspired by it. Somebody understands it's okay, it happens. Because we both are very driven, passionate people that take responsibility and accountability in our life. Whatever the perceived world has done, we've ticked a lot of those boxes. But we do have our shortcomings, you know, and society puts that as shortcomings, which is where it's now positioned at.
Yeah.
But it's actually an incredible strength to be able to talk about this.
Yeah.
You know, and I find it across cultures as well. We always say in South Africa, I say, whether it's a black man, a brown person, whether it's somebody that speaks this language or this language, when you take the time to speak to them, they've got similar concerns. They also want a good family life. And it's amazing that across all different faiths and cultures, actually there is unity between us and what we want to fight for and what we want to try and grow around us and the concerns we have. Yeah. And in certain cultures, it's just a no-go. You know, don't show weakness, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
And I find it very brave that you can do that for us. And you're a better person than most of us, you know, including myself when it comes to that stuff, because you feel always judged. But I will tell you, I've not recently learned this, but Gift of the Givers, which is Suleiman, the incredible organization, you'll have people on there that criticize them all the time.
Yeah.
Anybody that does well or do good with the absolute genuine intent, you'll see them critical of that. So I want me and you to be very conscious of this, that we should go into a mindset that we know who we are, we know who our consumers are, and we shouldn't give a shit about the keyboard warriors that go on board there and have no purpose in their life. And I call them out for this exact thing. If you sit the whole day and all you dream up is about the negativity and whose day can I ruin, who can I criticize, it's very easy to do that job. I give them no room that takes effort. That is piss to do.
Yes.
Because it's almost natural.
Yeah.
What takes a lot more conscious effort is to do the opposite that for the day.
Yes. Be positive. Reinforce, give people a feeling of happiness.
Yeah.
That they're doing well, you know. And be an ear to listen to people when they are struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you need to be conscious of that. But when you see that negativity online, trying to block it out is just, you've got to. What my dad's point of view is, he often will message me and say, I know that you saw that comment or something. Just ignore it. Ignore it. And I know that he's also taking that on, because he's also got that personality, but he's saying just focus on what we can control.
What are some of the most unusual, challenging requests for lawnmowers or anything to do with it that you've ever found?
We've had a person who's asked us to create a lawnmower to help with like artificial intelligence on one of their farms, so that they could grade the soil, like understand the soil and its componentry and stuff. And we just said, well, we'd love to, but it's very difficult for us to do. We were like, that's an interesting one. We'll work on it in the future. That's an interesting one. We've also had people asking us for like triplex lawnmowers, like a cylinder, but where it can pull 3 cylinders behind, but with, they could push it. Interesting, I don't know, some weird sort of stuff. We've had people who've asked us to make like go-karts out of our lawnmowers.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a bit of fun activities.
For a bit of fun and games, yeah.
It's amazing. There's a kart race in South Africa that happens once a year. It's part of Red Bull. And the barrows, our wheels, everything we seem to be making those carts. And every year towards November, when this race happens, we're always finding people that are asking us for the most oddest things. We always, say, okay, we'll make it happen, or we can't make it happen, or let's strictly put, and just like you guys, we have 3 factories, so every now and again we can make some innovative stuff, but we've also had some odd requests.
Yeah.
But it's good that happens, because I always say to people that I encourage any consumer engagement, whether it's the most outrageous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yes.
And also feedback and stuff. I always tell people, we love it when you say to us, listen, guys, this is not perfect, or this didn't work very well. That to us is not a concern.
It's gold.
And you know why it's gold for us, Stu, and you said it so well as afterwards, because we know we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
We'll back up everything.
Yes.
We'll face any challenge we face.
Yeah.
I mean, we have manufacturing defaults that happens. This paint, this thing happened, the steel, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
The reason I never panic, and I'm very conscious with all the people to say that, guys, we don't panic because we're not going anywhere.
Yes.
You only panic when you don't back it up, when you've done something wrong, when you've done something fraudulent. That's when the people panic.
Correct.
But when okay, this happened, I'm gonna take this opportunity to correct it.
Absolutely.
And we don't always win.
No.
Sometimes we lose customers. Sometimes we cannot fix or we cannot win them over.
Yeah.
But we've also learned that it's not that we're saying, okay, that doesn't matter to us, but we're saying move the hell on.
Correct. Exactly. We've had this issue in America right now. We have a customer who just cannot get his machine right.
Yeah.
It worked perfectly when it got to him.
Yeah.
Since he's used it, whatever's moved, we don't know. We're not there. We can't see it. But he's become incredibly frustrated with the machine. We said to him, listen, I'll tell you what, the next shipment's coming in November. We're just going to ship you a new one.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, that's unexpected.
Yeah.
He didn't expect that, so we've made his day. He said, okay, well, but the problem is that it's a bigger machine. Do I have to pay extra because it's slightly different? I said to him, no, it's fine. We'll just swap it out. Just take the new one. Now that guy's super chuffed. Okay. On the other side, you get somebody who says, I've actually just had enough. That's it. End of the day.
Yeah.
We will try our absolute best to make them feel great and to get the product that we want them to use our product, of course. But some people you can't keep happy forever. And then those people will move on naturally.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But as long as you've tried your absolute best to solve their problem and to make them feel good, and you've treated them as human beings and as individuals, what more can you do?
Absolutely. You see it all the time. You go to a restaurant, 20 people at a table, everybody had the most incredible time and one person had a bad experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes, now please, I'm not judging anybody, but we write that off to assholes. We have this thing that we just say, listen, some people you're just not going to win over by heart. And I hope everybody appreciates the context in which I mean it.
Yeah.
Because the problem is that we carry so much in our heart. If we carry all of that as well, it will inhibitate or debilitate us. My Afrikaans, debilitate us to do whatever we need to do in the future.
Yes.
You know, and that's how we always see it.
You're right.
It is what it is. And the thing is, people don't even want to speak about this because everything needs to always be perfect.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Doesn't work that
If
way.
you are a perfect person, don't listen to this.
Exactly.
Don't buy into any of our stuff because I cannot relate to you.
Correct.
You are perfect and I don't judge you for it.
Yeah.
Go and be perfect in your life.
Yeah.
But we are certainly not.
Yeah. It's like if you're driving down a road and everybody's driving against you.
Yes.
They're not all wrong necessarily.
Yeah.
You know, you might be the one who's wrong. You can't keep everybody happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we call it the human factor.
Okay.
So I just want to ask you, Nay, because there's quite an interesting, but are you going to bring out any special edition lawnmowers?
We are. It's a hard one
because
molds, tools,
yep.
spares, holding the spares, paint jobs. You've then got to get the distributors to buy into it, you know, or the end customer. So we are looking at bringing out a couple of, particularly on the higher end models, the cylinder models, looking at bringing out a couple more color options. But what we are doing, if I'm being brutally honest, is we're going to be using America as our base. So if they're going to adopt it, we'll bring it to South Africa.
Got it.
Because we're saying, well, if there's a market for tens of thousands in America, here it's much smaller market. At least we can produce a batch for South Africa.
Correct.
So we're doing everything with America in mind right now. And that's because our growth potential there is pretty big.
You had a call to action for companies to contact you for synergies.
Yes.
Really incredible, because we just spoke about your challenges, the effort you guys went through, the crying, the bad moments, anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
I'm putting it all in there, Stu, in one sort of point and statement. But then at the same time, making room for anybody else to come in and create synergies with you.
Yes.
What an incredible conscious decision. And why?
We don't believe that we can be all things to all people, number one. Number two, we think that other people do things far better than we do in certain respects. Like we're never going to enter the tool business, as an example, or the wheelbarrow business, because we feel like the best producers of those in the world are Lasher. Okay. We're not going to enter the Veldskoen market. Why? Because we feel like Veldskoen are doing that perfectly fine right now. You know, we're not going to be entering the braai market because we feel like, you know, there's a multitude of braai suppliers who are doing that just fine. I think for us, it's more about saying, well, how do we collectively work together, particularly as South African producers, to go to the world and say, guys, we're better than the rest.
Yeah.
And when we collectively combine our skills, we can go off and achieve things all together, rather than trying to do everything. I mean, you guys are very unlikely to enter the lawnmower market right now.
Absolutely, no chance.
Yeah, you know, and it's the same with us with tools. But we serve a common customer base. And so that means we serve potentially a common distributor base, whether that's in America, Australia, or here, or the UK, wherever it may be. Veldskoen is a good example that I always use. People
please talk to us about that.
In their Veldskoens.
I saw that.
They do. And so we have this market in the States that has now seen our Veldskoens that we have bought from the guys, Veldskoen here, from Nick and them, and they're going, we would like that. They would never have gotten exposed to that shoe if it wasn't for our entrance into that market. And so working together with them makes total sense. Are they going to be selling lawnmowers? Very unlikely.
Yeah.
But they might be able to help our brand somehow.
Yes.
You know, because lawn mowing people are very precise about what they want.
Yes.
And so there's particular clothes and shoes and stuff that we could get into that market, helping other providers here. Another one is Old School Rugby Jerseys, who I know the founder of. And he's building an incredible business around old school rugby jerseys. You know, people who mow their lawns will use that type of jersey because they don't want to get sunburned.
Big time.
And the States doesn't know rugby. So old school rugby shirts is not going to work for them unless they've got a targeted approach. I would like to work with guys like that, guys like Lasher, you know, to get into to get things to the customers that is made in South Africa. Work together. Don't try compete with everybody. What's the point in competing? Everybody's good at something different. Let's all work together. Makes more sense to me than trying to compete. I mean, in our industry, in the lawnmower industry, we've got competition in inverted commas. But I don't see it that way. We're all doing different stuff. We've got different products to what you've got. We've got different selling points to what you've got. I'm trying incredibly hard to work with our competition in the lawnmower space. I'm not getting very far right now, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
And the reason is because I believe collaboration is better.
Yeah.
You know, I truly do. I mean, if our competition in the lawnmower space, I'm not going to name them on here, but if they would be willing, and I've approached them, to produce some of our lawnmowers for our export market, I'd be more than happy, because I know they do a good job. You know, why not work with us to help build that? We can help build your factory. You can help build our base overseas. It's a no-brainer to me. Everyone sees competition. We just don't see in our business competition. And we pay no attention to the competition. It's all about customer service.
Stu, I just want you to know, your mindset, there's books about this 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago that was written about having this open mindset that we always say, even competition in our world, it raises gardening and lawn care. It
100%.
raises landscaping. You know, when somebody, it doesn't matter to us. We grow in that category together.
Yeah.
I'll tell you now, there was a company that's in yogurt. And they were like, how do we increase our yogurt sales? We went to them and we said, listen, you're already a brand leader. Whether you are the brand leader but you're already a brand. You're already on retail shops. Why not grow the category yogurt by 20%? Then you'll have a far bigger growth period than just focusing on your particular brand. And that's exactly what they did. They then went and said, okay, we make a yogurt, but forget about our brand. What is the benefits to yogurt? How do people use it? That category grew, and their sales by default grew automatically.
Yeah.
And that's so that you are. If you look at mindsets of successful people, Stu, you are not alone. You are, in fact, the people that don't have your mindsets, in my opinion, is the ones that are going backwards.
Agreed.
We are and of course, we're all passionate about our brands. We protect our brands. We really believe we do well at what we do. But we are never. We race, and I want to say, look at this, exactly this. Lasher, this is not about selling wheelbarrows or spades or forks or shovels or whatever the case might be, over 900 products. This is about raising the consciousness. And we said to ourselves, if we can raise the consciousness of people buying from you as a brand that's local, we as a local brand benefit from that automatically.
100%.
But more importantly, raise the consciousness that people start to go, holy moly, South African companies, their service, their mindsets, their stories. You know, what makes a Jojo tank different to everybody else? All of a sudden, it raises the profile for all local manufacturing companies.
Nailed it.
And that's why I call them accountable.
Yeah.
And I say to them, do not mess this up for us.
Yeah.
You cannot go in there and say, I'm local, support me. You better back it up.
Yeah, correct.
You better be cost effective. And if I say cost effective, you don't have to be the cheapest.
No.
Not at all.
Value for money.
Value for money.
Agreed.
I think in the day-to-day mindsets of people, that what is some of the heartwarming and inspirational stories about end consumers or trade, whatever that might be? If you don't mind just sharing one or two with us.
From our industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's one guy called Gift who I was on LinkedIn and I saw Gift has a bicycle, and I saw it was a lady, I can't remember her name, but she'd had a picture of this guy she'd seen somewhere close to Stratham Park. He was on a bicycle, he was in his gumboots, he had his hat on. Off the front of his bicycle was a lawnmower, and off the back was a chainsaw and a brush cut, and he was riding this thing up this hill to try and get to a job. And it turns out that he goes from place to place, just doing jobs with his bicycle. How do you put a lawnmower on a bicycle? This guy does like 3 or 4 jobs a day. And I managed to get hold of him, and he came and he told me a story, and he said, I just can't afford anything else. I can't afford to service my stuff. I don't have the time to do it. But he is the type of person, we now are supporting that guy at our shop, Gift. But to see that guy just trying to build his life around his lawnmower and his chainsaw and his brush cutter for his family, and he told us his whole story, and he's built it from zero up. That for me was it's just an amazing thing. He gave our whole staff just some positivity that you can do anything if you set your mind to it. You know, he was the one guy, which is amazing.
Amazing.
There's a whole bunch of little family businesses around the country that you guys also sell to, the Lasher guys sell to, and they are family run, born and bred, and they support all sorts of kids and families in their community, in their areas, little startup businesses, little landscaping companies. You know, they 1- and 2-man bands, you know, and there's people who are coming into our shop every day, and we talk to them, and they're saying, you know, I've just saved up enough to, they say I bought a Ryobi because it was the cheapest.
Yeah.
I did a few jobs, now I can afford to buy one of your products, or a Still product, or a Husqvarna. And then once they've done that, they then come and buy 2 or 3 or 4 or 6, and they start building up this little fleet. And the lives that have been changed because of the things that we're able to provide them, you know, often able to provide them for free servicing, whatever it may be, just it's so uplifting. You know, you get to see actual human beings trying to make a difference and make a change. I love that type of thing. You know, our suppliers are all doing work for people who can't afford it. Yeah. The lawn care nuts are people who support others who can't afford things. And they're all people who come from steel industries, you know, chemicals, you name it. And all of them work together. And I love that. People working together. You know, we've got a wholesale side of our business. We use Lasher products a lot. Yeah. I love that. Like, why can't we all work together? Why do we all have to be in competition? Don't understand it.
Don't understand it at all. I think it's such a great message, Steve, for us to end on, is that I want to thank everybody that's at Rolux, the entire family there, all the people that work with you, the brands and consumers that support you, to American people and people in Australia, the Middle East, and all the countries in you serve. Thank you very much for making that conscious decision to support us.
100%.
The impact is immediately. It doesn't go into this big corporate world where it gets split into 100 pieces. Yeah. It goes to direct employment, salaries, wages, overheads, electricity, rentals, and etc. Everybody that's at Rolux, the team that service the aftercare products, to all of them really today, they've got their own personal lives, but that they wake up in the mornings to decide today, I'm going to put this cap on and service the brand that is giving me this opportunity. I want to also thank you, your dad, Guy Williams, your brother, Bruce, and the younger one, Gordon, for you guys to take on the brand and not to have let it go to the grave, for you to bring it back in the way that you are today. And I know you've still got a long journey. Yeah. I know that your challenges are still sitting ahead of you. Yeah. I know that you haven't even touched the surface on where you're going to go with this brand. And I really mean that. I don't think you've touched the surface. But thank you for the foundational that you guys have done and that you keep this going. Thank you for inspiring us as people, for sharing your vulnerable moments in your mind, your life, and also to share with us the successes that you've had. And thank you for being so open and honest. You've inspired us at Lasher tremendously. And Stu, this is not beautiful words we are sitting here and saying to you. These are genuine things that we have experienced ourselves. A 95-year-old big brand like Lasher that literally and physically got inspired by Rolux, and in our world it's a far smaller company, you know, but has inspired this big brand to do better.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We are so grateful. And thank you for the opportunities you're creating and synergies with other companies that will, imagine 3 years from now when we have a follow-up podcast or 5 years from now, what those stories would look like. Yeah. We are so intensely grateful from our hearts, and thank you for everything that you guys do.
I really appreciate it, and thank you for having me. It's been inspiring for me to be able to talk it through and to listen to what you had to say as well. And I really appreciate the time.
Stu, a last message to you, to everybody that supports the brand.
I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who supports. I think most importantly, my family. You know, and our staff members and our team, and therefore as a result the brand, you know, that's really what it is for us. It's like, it's our livelihoods, it's our it's what we live and breathe, it's what we stress about, it's what we go to sleep thinking about and what we wake up thinking about. But you know, I just want to say thank you to everybody around the world who even if you don't buy the product, just messages of support means a lot. You know, support doesn't have to be monetary. It can be just guidance. It can be advice. It can be criticisms. You know, nice criticisms. But yeah, just really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you having me on the show. You know, Lasher doing this type of show. This for me is creating bonds, and that's really important. That's the human connection, right?